Throughout history, Colombia has been synonymous with drugs, especially cocaine. Whether with the myth of El Dorado, the marijuana market in the early 90s, or currently the cocaine market, the truth is that Colombia's economy is nurtured directly and indirectly from the production and sale of drugs. And, to understand how Colombia reached this point, we must unravel its historical and economic threads, tracing the path that led it into the grip of the cocaine industry. The roots of Colombia's drug trade are deeply rooted in its colonial history. When the Spanish arrived in the 1500s, much of the region's natural wealth was exploited. Gold, emeralds, and other resources were extracted, while large-scale agriculture, such as sugar and tobacco plantations, were introduced. These enterprises relied on the forced labor of indigenous people and enslaved Africans, creating a shift, bringing forth a deeply unequal society. Land ownership and economic power were concentrated in the hands of a few colonial elites, leaving the larger majority of the population disenfranchised. Even after Colombia gained independence in 1810, these entrenched inequalities of the colonial era persisted. The wealthy landowners still retained control over the nation's resources, while most of the rural farmers, or campesinos, struggled to make ends meet. Coffee became Colombia's main export in the 19th and early 20th century, but its profits still primarily benefited the elite. This economic difference in the society forced many small-scale farmers to seek alternative ways to survive, laying the groundwork for the eventual rise of coca cultivation in Colombia's rural hinterlands. Long before cocaine became a global commodity, coca leaves held a significant place in the cultures of indigenous Andean communities. For centuries, these communities chewed coca leaves for their medicinal and energizing properties. However, by the late 19th century, the global demand for coca took shape. Scientists discovered how to isolate cocaine from the plant. Initially celebrated as a breakthrough in medicine, cocaine was widely used in tonics and pharmaceuticals, including the early formula of Coca-Cola. But by the early 20th century, as the addictive nature of cocaine became evident, governments worldwide began to restrict its use. This created a black market for the drug, and Colombia's geography and climate made it an ideal location for coca cultivation. However, Colombia's role in the global drug trade remained relatively minor until the mid-20th century, when organized crime began to exploit the growing demand for illicit substances. The 1970s marked a seismic shift in Colombia's relationship with the drug trade. Cocaine gained immense popularity in the United States and Europe, where it became synonymous with wealth and glamour. This skyrocketing demand transformed cocaine into one of the most lucrative illegal commodities in history, and Colombia emerged as a central player in its production and distribution. Rural farmers began to grow coca as a way to escape grinding poverty. Coca was easier to cultivate than traditional crops like coffee. It required less initial investment and offered far higher profits. Traffickers capitalized on this dynamic, providing farmers with financial incentives and protection in exchange for coca leaves. This symbiotic relationship between farmers and traffickers solidified Colombia's position as a cocaine powerhouse. At the same time, powerful drug cartels began to take shape. The Medellin cartel, led by the infamous Pablo Escobar, and the Cali cartel emerged as the dominant bar, who started as a small-time smuggler, rose to global infamy as the leader of an empire that controlled an estimated 80% of the world's cocaine supply at its peak. The cartel earned billions of dollars, employing thousands of workers and utilizing innovative smuggling techniques, such as hiding cocaine in plane tires or embedding it in products like furniture. Escobar's rule was marked by a dual approach: extreme violence and calculated generosity. Heel and long-lasting. As the Medellin cartel's violent reign captured headlines, the Cali cartel was quietly growing into an equally powerful organization. Unlike Escobar's operation, the Cali cartel preferred a more discreet approach, relying on bribery and corruption rather than overt violence. Its leaders, the Rodriguez-Orihuela brothers, infiltrated legitimate businesses, established sophisticated money laundering schemes, and extended their influence across Colombia's political and economic landscape. By the mid-1990s, the Cali cartel had become the world's largest cocaine supplier. Its methods allowed it to evade the scrutiny that plagued Escobar, but its reach was no less damaging. The cartel's eventual downfall in the late 1990s marked the end of the era of dominant cartels, but it left behind a fragmented drug trade controlled by smaller, more decentralized criminal organizations. The rise of the drug trade exacted a devastating toll on Colombian society. Urban centers like Medellin and Cali were transformed into battlegrounds, with cartel-related violence claiming thousands of lives. Kidnappings, assassinations, and bombings became common, forcing countless families to flee their homes. Corruption spread throughout the government, police, and judiciary as cartels used bribes and threats to maintain their operations. This widespread corruption eroded public trust in institutions, leaving many Colombians feeling powerless and disillusioned. The environmental impact, on the other hand, was equally severe. Coca cultivation led to deforestation, and the chemicals used in cocaine production polluted rivers and soil. Efforts to eradicate coca fields, such as aerial spraying with herbicides, often harmed legitimate crops and displaced entire communities, exacerbating poverty and social unrest. Colombia's drug trade became deeply entangled with its long-standing internal conflict. However, they soon turned to the drug trade to fund their operations, taxing coca farmers and running cocaine production facilities. This convergence of drug trafficking and armed conflict created a vicious cycle of violence and instability. Any efforts to combat the drug trade were complicated by the broader civil war, as attacks on coca cultivation were often seen as attacks on communities under guerrilla control. In the late 20th century, the United States became a major player in Colombia's war on drugs. With cocaine consumption surging in the U.S., the Reagan administration launched aggressive anti-drug initiatives, providing billions of dollars in military and economic aid to Colombia. In 2000, this support was formalized through Plan Colombia, a multifaceted program aimed at reducing coca cultivation, strengthening Colombia's military, and promoting economic alternatives for farmers. Plan Colombia achieved some successes, particularly in reducing coca farming in certain areas and weakening guerrilla groups. However, it also had significant drawbacks. The reliance on aerial spraying and militarized strategies often displaced rural communities and pushed coca cultivation into more remote regions, causing further environmental damage. Critics argued that the plan focused too much on enforcement and not enough on addressing the root causes of the drug trade, such as poverty and inequality. Despite decades of efforts to combat the drug trade, Colombia remains one of the world's top cocaine producers. The fragmentation of the major cartels has given rise to smaller, more agile criminal organizations, known as bandas criminales or BACRIM, which continue to exploit rural farmers and smuggle cocaine globally. In recent years, some countries have begun to explore alternative approaches, such as decriminalizing or legalizing drugs, in an effort to reduce the power of criminal organizations. However, Colombia's experience underscores the complexity of the issue. The drug trade is deeply intertwined with broader social, economic, and political challenges, making it a problem that cannot be solved through enforcement alone. The story of how Colombia became a drug nation is a complex and often tragic tale of history, inequality, and global demand. It has fueled violence, corruption, and environmental destruction, leaving scars that Colombia continues to grapple with today. Yet, amidst these challenges, Colombia has also demonstrated remarkable resilience. Efforts to rebuild cities like Medellin, reintegrate former guerrilla fighters, and promote economic development offer hope for a brighter future. As the world continues to confront the realities of drug trafficking, Colombia's journey serves as both a cautionary tale and a testament to the enduring strength of its people. If you found this video so fascinating, please hit the like, share, and also subscribe to our channel to get on more of our posts. Until next time, thank you for watching.